Hi guys, it's Gracie again from the Feminist Critique Podcast, coming at you with a new episode on my web series. Now, last week I talked about book-to-film adaptations, and this week I'm kind of going to go a little bit into kind of what the podcast is about. Of course, our podcast is the Feminist Critique Podcast, which is a podcast where we talk about movies, where we put them to feminist and inclusive tests, and overall we just decide if a movie is good or not, and of course all of this stuff is subjective. Sometimes things pass that some others might agree or disagree with. That's perfectly fine. But today what I want to do is talk about one of my favorite feminist films of all time, and that is Sleeping Beauty. But Gracie, the princess in the movie only gets 14 lines of dialogue and sleeps through half of it. How the fuck could this film be feminist? Well, I'm here with all the answers. So, sit back and enjoy. Now, Sleeping Beauty, little backstory, Sleeping Beauty came out in 1959. Walt Disney was still at the helm of Disney Studios, and this movie came out a couple of years after Cinderella. And the voice actress of Maleficent actually played Lady Tremaine in Cinderella. So that's pretty fucking cool. Now, classic story, everybody knows it, right? King and queen have a baby, invite everybody in the kingdom, and they don't invite the bitch that could fuck them up, right? They do not invite Maleficent. And she didn't take it well, so of course, she curses the baby with dying on her 16th birthday. But one of the good fairies ends up being able to help. Instead of dying, Aurora's just gonna be, put to sleep for however long until her true love comes and kisses her. The 16 years pass, and then the princess gets, cursed. And then Prince Philip comes in, slays the dragon, saves the day. Prince Philip's the hero. He does all the killing. He kisses Aurora awake. Obviously, he's the one that makes it happen, and nobody else. This is where I beg to differ. So, here's the thing. You've got these three fairies, right? Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather. They get more screen time than anybody else. They, in my opinion, are the true heroes. And here's why. So, after Maleficent puts the curse on Aurora, the king and queen are very frantic. They don't know what to do. They're scared for their child. And so Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather all shrink down, and they have this, they try and come up with a way of saving Aurora until she's past her 16th birthday. And you think things are going to go good, they think, oh, well, we'll turn her into a flower, but none of this is working out. And then one of them has the idea that, oh no, how about we raise the baby as our own without any magic? So these three women, they decide to come to the king and queen about it, and it works. King and queen are like, yeah, that's a good idea. Take the baby, run, disappear into the woods for 16 years, and then come back when she's old enough. So they managed to raise to this very sweet, caring individual. She likes to sing in the forest and dance with animals because that's what Disney princesses do. It's just canon. But, she ends up meeting Prince Philip, but she doesn't know it's Prince Philip. She doesn't know that she's even, a princess. And the fairies are very heartbroken when they discover that their ward has fallen in love with someone. And there's nothing they can do about it. They hurt for her, but at the same time, they do have a duty to return her to her parents. And she's supposed to marry Prince Philip. Dramatic irony, of course, is that the person that she's fallen head over heels in love with is Prince Philip, but conflict. And I do have to say, though, I don't know how Aurora managed to survive past infancy when they seem so inept at cooking and sewing, but then I remember that, actually one of them does most of the cooking and another one does most of the sewing, and they kind of switch roles for her 16th birthday for some fucking reason. But anyway, Regardless, they raise her on their own. You know, 3 spinster ladies who aren't using any magic managed to do this and create this well-rounded, very sweet individual. Now, of course, after they get to the palace, the curse takes effect because Maleficent lures Aurora to a spinning wheel with a trance. And let's just say the best part of this movie is when Maleficent throws back her dress and goes, "Here's your precious princess." I love it. It's like, you are amazing even though you're evil. So they put Aurora, in her bedchamber, and then they put the entire kingdom to sleep. And while this is happening, Prince Philip has gone to the woodcutter's cottage to find Aurora, or Briar Rose as he knows her. Or I don't even think he knows her name, but regardless, they're in love. Like a good Disney movie. And, when he gets there, he gets kidnapped by Maleficent. And Maleficent takes him back to her palace, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to suffer here for 100 years, and then you and your noble steed can go wake Princess Aurora up." Blah, 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 blah. So, he's trapped. He can't get out. He's in chains. Who comes and rescues him? That's right. Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather come and rescue his ass. Not only do they do that, they also give him a shield, give him a sword. They ensure that lava and rocks don't kill him. And then, when this big battle is happening between him and Maleficent, who is at this point a huge-ass fucking dragon, right? So, she's like, got the wings and everything. She's winning, right? She's going in for that strike. She's gonna fucking murder him. Well, Philip grabs the sword and throws it. And one of the fairies just makes sure that it strikes true. One of the fairies ensures that Maleficent dies. So really, Prince Philip really didn't do anything. But he gets all the credit. Which is just like a man, isn't it? A woman does everything, and then a man gets the credit for it. That's how it works. Not all the time, of course, before the not all men get here. So, here we have this movie. Came out in the 50s. Before the huge women's lib movement that happened in the 60s, around the same time as the civil rights movement was really big. They're middle-aged, they're unmarried, and yet they raise a perfectly wonderful young woman in the middle of nowhere. They rescue the prince, they protect the prince, they kill the enemy, and then they ensure that Aurora doesn't die from her curse at the end. Philip and Aurora are able to get married, and they truly love each other, and it all works out for political convenience because they were destined to marry anyway. Great, right? So, one of the criticisms that this movie gets a lot, Sleeping Beauty in particular, is the fact that Aurora is not really important as far as anything more than a plot device. Even though she's the titular character, I don't think she's the main character. That's just my personal opinion. I think she is just the plot device. And that's fine, right? So, going off of the test that we actually do for our podcast, Sleeping Beauty actually passes 3 of them. It passes the Bechdel test, which the Bechdel test is the most well-known. It's 2 named female characters on screen alone talking about something other than a man. And this happens several times, so it's a definite pass. Then you have your Makomori test, and the Makomori test is when a woman has a central storyline and a character arc not based on pushing a male narrative forward. In this case, the 3 women are not there for Philip, they're there for Aurora. They're there to raise her, they're there to protect her. Everything they do is not to help Philip, it's to, by extension, help their ward, Aurora. So, and the third test to actually pass of the 6 we do on the podcast is the Sexy Lamp test. Now, the Sexy Lamp test is, if you replace a character, a named female character with the sexy lamp from A Christmas Story, is it going to change the plot? And the answer is no. You couldn't replace any named female character. The queen doesn't actually have a name. She only has a title. The only ones that have names are King Hubert and King Stephen. The queen doesn't have a name. So your named female characters are Maleficent, who's the villain, and then you have Aurora, who's the mandatory plot device to drive the entire plot of the movie. And then you have Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, who are the heroes of the movie. So, my opinion is that this film is probably one of the most feminist properties that Disney has. Now, we all know about the Maleficent thing, right? Where they rebooted Maleficent and kind of gave this tragic backstory and this rape allegory to her and made King Stephen the villain. I mean, it's a good movie. I like it, but at the same time, they're trying to fix something that, in my opinion, was never broken. You know, it's kind of a cool anti-hero story. I get that. But I also really, really love the original for what it showed. And that is 3 middle-aged women who are the heroes of a story. And that is definitely my opinion on the subject. You are, of course, free to disagree with me, but that's what I'm going to go with. So, yeah. So my question is, do you agree? If so, why not, right? And do you think there are other examples of Disney movies that kind of get the wrong reputation, or you see it differently than maybe others do? I'd love to hear it. You can comment below, and let me know your thoughts. You can also check out the podcast that I do with my co-host Ajleen. You can find us on Twitter. We have a Discord. Our podcast is on Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, most podcast streaming services. So definitely check us out, and I'll see what you think. But yeah, that's how I'm gonna wrap this up. And honestly, I just want to hear your guys' thoughts. So comment below, tell me what you think about my opinion and what your own are, and I hope you have a good one. Bye!